Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. TheSketchMonkey here. Today we're having a look at the 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee L Summit 4-wheel drive. This is a beast of a Jeep. I like what they did with the restyling in 2021. Made it look just a lot more stately, a lot more boxy in the front end. So what we're gonna do in this video is have a look at the front end design, the side view, the rear, the beautiful interior, and then we're gonna take this for a drive. Let's take a look at some of the basic spec and tech for the 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee L Summit 4x4. You have a 3.6-liter V6, putting out 293 horsepower and 257 pound-feet of torque, connected to an 8-speed automatic transmission. You obviously have 4-wheel drive. 0 to 60 takes 7.4 seconds. Fuel economy comes in at 18 city, 25 highway, and the price for this is $73,500. Starting with the front end design, and I think we can all agree that this just is a pretty handsome big boy. It is definitely a lot more stately, as I said, than the previous generation, and that means that the front end, what I like here is that the front end hood almost has this forward angle to it, so it has this forward motion, a very confident looking front end, in addition to all the new horizontal lines that we have cutting through this entire front end. Very nicely done, and a nice refresh by Jeep with the new Grand Cherokee when it comes to the stateliness and the boxiness of this design. Now, a couple of things that I love about the front end of the new Grand Cherokee. First of all, let's have a look at these headlights right here. You have this big, nice LED bar going up top of this very static looking headlights, but static, I think, is the way to go with the Grand Cherokee. It just suits this overall vibe of this car. And further down, you do have this very nicely done bumper, because we rarely see proper bumpers these days in today's cars. And what we have here is just a nice separation between the top end graphics and the lower section for the Jeep Cherokee. But these corner intakes, these are some hard gloss plastic. I wish they would open these up a little bit, but everything else in the middle, the grille up top and the grille down below, at least this section, and in the middle section of this middle part, is also open and 100% functional to funnel some air into this V6 engine. Let me know what you think about the front end of the new Grand Cherokee. Personally, as I said throughout this video, I just think it looks way more confident than it did in the previous generation, and a lot more boxy. And the detail that I love most is just how much the grille is sticking out and leaning forward as a big forehead in the front. One thing I will maybe want to change and play around with is just the height of this center intake. So maybe just cut it up here and then have this be a full bumper, so the body color is sticking down to this point. And I think that would maybe make the separation between the top half and the lower half a little bit more smooth. In the sides here, you do have the big fog lights, and you also have some silver trim at the very low part, adding some elegance to the front end of this design. Coming on to the side view of the brand new 2023 Grand Cherokee L Summit 4x4. What do we have when we talk about the wheels and tires? These are 20-inch wheels. The thing today, though, if you were to have 20-inch wheels on a, for example, 10, 15-year-old car, they would look a lot bigger than this is, because it don't really look like 20 inches to me on this car, but they are 265mm wide tires all around. The design of this wheel sort of suits this elegant look that we have overall in general of the new Grand Cherokee. Now, the boxiness that we have in the front end and the stateliness definitely comes back here in the side view of the Grand Cherokee. Have a look at this beautiful, sharp, chiseled shoulder line that cuts right through the door handles and then goes into the very corner of the taillight right here, from the very corner of the headlight in the front. That's exactly what I want to see on a big volume vehicle like this is. Further down, we do have this line, then carving out some more of that volume, and we also have this silver trim coming back in the lower section. One detail I love here, graphic detail, is that it says Grand Cherokee on the side with the American flag in silver right here. Small details like that just makes it feel a little bit more special. Now, one detail up top that I'm not so sure about is this line right here. This is taken straight from the normal smaller Cherokee and applied into a more boxy variant, in this case, where you have this separation between the black roof and then you have the silver piece going in here, creating this big D pillar in the back. It sort of looks good here, but the reason I'm not so sure about it is I'm not sure if that's too much styling to have on the Grand Cherokee. I think it suits this. It would not suit the Grand Wagoneer because that is a big brother. You need to be much more restrained with your styling. We do have some very nice line flow in this body. Have a look at this line right here. I'm gonna move my shadow so you can see it. This line right here then cuts in and comes back in the middle in this line that we talked about earlier. Looking very nice. I also like the two-tone that we have, this silver in contrast with the black top, further reducing some of the volume. And you also have the gloss black side mirrors with the LED indicator right here, looking beautiful. Overall, the proportions of the side view of the Grand Cherokee L just look very nice. It has this boxy shape to it. I also like that Jeeps are sticking with their squared off wheel fenders. If you have these round, it just wouldn't be a Jeep. Coming around to the rear end of the brand new 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee L Summit, and I do love the graphics that we have here, and I also like that they're sticking to a pretty old formula in 2023 with the graphic features. What I mean by that is that the key graphic features still have some nice chamfers going around it to house it. Usually what manufacturers do today is have everything be flush with the bodywork and not have a specific housing for example, the taillights in this case looking beautiful. We also have the wiper still visible on here. I probably want to hide this up here. This is a $73,000 car, so maybe hide the wiper a little better than this. We also have the rear mounted camera up top with the little washer for it. You also have the brake light integrated in the top spoiler, looking pretty nice with the blacked out roof and the tinted rear window. Further down, we do have a lot of horizontal lines in this thing. You have the badging 4x4 L, and you also have a specific housing for the license plate right here, looking very nice. Further down in the rear end, you have a second reverse camera, also with the little washer mounted right next to it. I do like the housing that we have carved out here for the license plate, and not having the license plate be sort of an afterthought in this design. Further down, we do have some black trim piece right here in the bumper in contrast with the silver trim and the reflector lights at the bottom with the Summit badge. One detail I do love about this Grand Cherokee is that yes, we do have dual exhausts, and both of them are actually functional, so there's no fakeness going on here with Jeep. You can actually see the tailpipes themselves sitting nicely in both ends of the rear end. I've been using this car as my daily for a week now. So we went grocery shopping, we did everything you would normally do in any car that you own. And back here you do have plenty of space for your groceries, even with the third row folded all the way up. But if you want to fold them down, you can use these buttons to just electronically fold them down, which is pretty neat, and it's also going to give you a lot more space, obviously. In here you do have a 12-volt outlet, and you also have the button for closing and opening the tailgate itself. It's not located somewhere here like it normally is. It's actually located right here on the inside. Welcome to the absolutely stunning interior of the 2023 Grand Cherokee L. I love what's going on in here. It feels pretty luxurious because we have a bunch of different curvatures and organic feel with the combination with different textures and material. Leather, wood, aluminum or chrome plastic, I'm not sure what this is, a different type of material below that. So just in this section right here, you have 4 different type of textures and materials, which is fantastic. But let's start up top. We have a leather wrapped dashboard with this brown contrast stitching looking fantastic. I do like it. It looks classy having these colors. Underneath that, you do have 2 vents. The main vents are located right up here, and you also have an array of buttons in this section, which are all facing upwards. I feel like they were designed for LeBron James, because you have to like look at it like this to see what they actually do. So you have the auto shut off for the engine, the lane keep assist on and off, the traction control, hazards, parking sensors on and off, and the active parking on and off. And you have the screen, passenger screen, which you have right here, which we're going to talk about in just a second. Also, you can turn that on and off with this button up here. Pretty cool. Further down, we do have a 10.1-inch infotainment screen, and it feels like a waterfall. It just comes out from the vents up top here, then falls over this wooden area with the leather and everything, and it kind of just placed a screen on top of all these materials and curves that we have here, and they just filled it up with some material back here. I do like the integration of this infotainment screen. It feels like they put in some effort to actually make it feel nice and integrated. Specifically, if you look at the trim pieces, this chrome trim that goes around it goes from the vents and then coming down in the side of the infotainment screen. Nicely done, Jeep. Putting some effort into actually making it look nice. Now, looking at this infotainment screen, I like it a lot because they have a bunch of different settings in here. Go to home, for example. You can pop up the navigation, have that be full screen, and it is fairly responsive. As you can see, zoom in and out and do whatever you want. You have the comfort settings, so here you can adjust the heated steering wheel, for example, on and off, heated and cooled seats. So you have everything here digital, but you also have those features as physical buttons down here, and that's why I love this infotainment screen in general. It's just nicely laid out. If you want to use the software, you're welcome to do that, but if you want to quickly adjust some key features, heated steering wheel, heated and cooled seats, you can do that down here. And the graphics in here are pretty nice looking as well for a Jeep. So let's go into vehicle, because I want to show you something cool. You have the fam cam, so you can check on both the second row seats and the third row seats from a top view. You have the cameras mounted in the ceiling, and that video is then streamed or fed into this specific camera setting, which I think is very cool. Specifically, if you have kids, you want to know what they're doing back there, you can just look for yourself and see that everybody is calm back there. Very cool. You also have the forward-facing camera, which has the trajectory lines, and it does look like a very clean resolution. Not the best resolution, but it's decent, and it's definitely going to show you all the obstacles in front of you. And if you want to clean it, you can just hit the clean, and it's going to shoot some water onto the camera, and boom, you have a clean camera. Nicely done again with the cameras, but that's not all. You also have, of course, in this price range, you do have a 360 camera. You can switch the cameras here by clicking all these buttons. If you want to go back to the 360, you can just look at the top view right here to the left. Now, you also have something called the off-road pages, and here you can see if you've locked the front and rear differentials, for example, you can see the angle of your pitch and roll of the car as it is right now when it's parked. You can select the terrain, whatever terrain you want. You can check the suspension as well, and one really cool feature about this Cherokee is you can raise it up and lower it in 5 different stages, which is fantastic, specifically if you're serious about taking this off-road. Moving further down, and here we have all these buttons, physical buttons for everything climate related. You do have the volume button for the radio here as well, and the mute button. You have the heated and cooled seats in 3 different stages for both. You have the heated steering wheel, and the fan speed and temp being this big wing in the middle of the wing of toggles here. Super easy to use. Just press the fan speed up if you want a stronger fan, and down if you want it to be weaker. And you also have the temperature control right here on both sides, of course. Up being warmer, down being cooler. Very, very simple to use. Now, you have a bunch of connectivity here. So under this little lid here, if you open this up, you can see that we have 2 regular USBs, you have 2 USB-Cs, you also have a HDMI port, and in addition to all those connections, you also have a 12-volt cigarette outlet with the wireless charging pad being located right here in the center. Further back, we do have the gear selector, so you go into reverse, it's going to pop up the reverse camera with the 360, which we already talked about. And you have the drive mode selector here with this big toggle. So you have rock, you have sand, mud, you have snow, auto, or sport. Those are the drive settings that you have. Sport, to me, when I was driving it in sport, it felt a little bit jerky to me. I always kept it in auto throughout this entire week for the most part. And on the right side, you do have the ride height selector, so you can select just how high you want the ride height to be. I like to keep it in 2, so 2 out of 5 seems to be the normal height for just driving around town. Very nicely done. You have the 4-wheel drive low button here, so you can lock the differentials. You also have 4-wheel drive low if you get yourself in a tricky situation, need to get out, just press this button right here. And in addition to the hill descent control button on the right side. Further back, you have 2 pretty standard size cup holders here under this lid, and you have a very soft leather wrapped armrest with the same stitching that we have up here, looking very nice on this specific area. Underneath this beautiful armrest, you do have a bit of a storage here for the first layer. You can open the second layer, and you got a lot deeper storage, of course, in the bottom part, looking fairly deep for this type of vehicle. Now, these seats, some of my favorite seats in a Jeep ever. I just think these are absolutely stunning with the diamond stitching and the brown stitching in the sides right here. For the bolstering, you have the Summit in the backrest itself, and you have the white piping going around it with the aluminum trim on the back part. It's just an absolutely fantastic looking seat, and they're super comfortable as well, and of course they are power adjustable in this case. Moving on to the steering wheel, also very nicely done by Jeep, because have a look at all the different materials and textures that we have in here. We have this gloss black going around the lower section, then it comes back to some silver trim around the spokes and the buttons. The buttons themselves are a gloss black, and then you have this wood insert as well, in addition to everything we just talked about, and the leather wrapped on the outside. It's just a beautiful steering wheel. On the right side, you have all the controls for the cruise control settings, and on the left side, you have the controls to customize the gauge cluster exactly like you wanted. And this is completely, fully 100% customizable to show you exactly what it is you want to show in here. And one very cool feature that this is equipped with is the night vision. So you don't have to worry about not seeing ahead of the headlights how far they can reach. You can still activate the night vision, and everything at night become crystal clear in the gauge cluster. Very cool. The integration of this gauge cluster is beautiful as well, because we do have a housing for it, and we also have it being backlit, which is something I don't think I've ever seen before, because you have this nice backlit feature to it, which looks fantastic at night. Going back to the steering wheel though, these paddles way too small for this car. They are just simply small squares at the back end. I want to have them be a little bit bigger than this, at least longer than this. But again, I haven't used the paddles. I've used it one time this entire week. This is a car that I don't think I would really use the paddles in that much. Moving on to the left side of the steering wheel, you do have the controls for the lighting settings, and you also have the parking brake right here. Moving on to the doors, you do have the memory seat buttons up here, and the doors themselves, just as the rest of this interior, is just gorgeously designed with the Macintosh integration, looking pretty old school, like an old mic or something like that, looking nice in the front end of the door. And then you have the same diamond leather stitching up top with the wood and the silver and the leather on top of that. Fantastic design, interior design by Jeep. Last but not least, we need to talk about this display. So this is a display for the passengers, and they can check out the cameras, and they have their own little infotainment screen up here, and this is 10.3 inches big. I'm not sure if I would option for that. It feels a little redundant to have exactly the same almost system that we have here over here for the passengers, but it is a pretty cool feature. And we also, of course, has a big glove box for this Jeep Grand Cherokee. Up top, we do have a big panoramic sunroof that goes all the way back to the second row seat headrest. But as always, I'm gonna keep this closed. Up here, we do have a digital rear view camera, a feature that you know that I love because it just gives such clear visibility in the rear end with this fisheye perspective that you have. So nicely done with that as well, Jeep. And with that said, let's jump into the second row, because it is very nice back there, and I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna have any problems fitting back there behind my own driving position, being 6'1". All right, guys, jumping into the back seat of the Grand Cherokee L Summit, and as expected, I have plenty of room back here, plenty of headroom, and you do have 4-zone climate control. So you have all the controls for the climate integrated in the center portion right here with the fan speed, the temperature, and you also have heated seats back here with some additional vents. And again, plenty of connectivity here. You have 2 USB-Cs, 2 regular USBs, in addition to a 12-volt house outlet. So perfectly if you want to plug in a vacuum. The kids are messy, you just want to clean it up a little bit, just plug in the vacuum down there and it's all good. You have a sturdy looking center portion here, and the armrest feels exactly the same as the one that we have up front, with this tray that you can take out to make it even deeper if you want to. And in front of you, you do have this little pocket to store whatever you want. A couple of markers, maybe even a sketchbook could fit in there. Now I'm gonna jump in to the rear seats. It's a very easy entry because you move the entire seat in front of you forward, so you have this big opening here to just enter it, and it is very comfortable back here as well. And Jeep does not cheap out when it comes to connectivity, because you have 2 more USB-Cs on each side, one USB-C and one USB regular, in addition to some cup holders back here. Very comfy and cozy back here. I'm surprised by that. All right, guys, it's time to set off in the 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee L Summit 4-wheel drive. This is a big SUV. It is the L version, obviously, so you have the 3 rows, and under the hood you have this is the V6. You can get it with a V8 though, which is the one I would pick. I'm gonna let you know why in just a second. But in this case, we have a 3.6 liter V6, 293 horsepower, 0 to 60 in about 7.4 seconds, something like that. It really isn't that quick. It doesn't feel quick. It feels like this V6 is almost struggling a little bit with all this volume that we have on this vehicle. That's one reason why I would pick the V6 or the V8 over the V6. You got an 8-speed automatic transmission. Even downhill, it just feels big and heavy. It feels like you need the V8 in here. Another reason why I would have picked the V8 is obviously the sound. This doesn't sound too bad. It's pretty decent for a V6. And you also get 1,000 pounds more in towing, so you can tow 7,200 pounds instead of 6,200 pounds, which this V6 is rated for. So if you like towing if you need to tow stuff, you get 1,000 pounds more with the V8. So that's another reason to go for that one. Handling is pretty good. Let's put it in sport. And let's see what this is all about. So let's slow it down here, and we are indeed in sport. Go down to almost standstill. And from that, we're just gonna floor it and see what this can do. So here we go. Second gear. 50. And we're up to 60 right there. So as you can see, when you're in sport as well, it keeps the revs, it stays in gear a lot longer. I don't really like the sport setting in this car because it just feels so jerky compared to auto, which shifts a lot smoother. So I'm gonna pop it back into auto. But what I do like is the ride height selector in 5 different stages. If you happen to go off-road and you can't get unstuck, what I would do, pop it into rock or sand and mud, raise it up all the way and put it in 4-wheel drive low, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna be able to get yourself out of that tricky situation. See, I'm not in sport right now, but it still holds the gears in high revs for so long. It's pretty weird, this gearbox. The ride quality is pretty comfortable. I would expect it to be a little bit more comfortable than this, if I'm honest, because this is a big SUV, and it is a little on the harsh side, even if I have the ride height in the second setting. This is sort of the normal cruise setting to have it in 2 out of 5 when it comes to ride height. And I don't think the 20-inch wheels would have something to do with that either, because you still have plenty of rubber around the tire itself. It handles pretty good though. The only thing that ruins it is the lack of acceleration and speed with the V6. And the second thing is this weird gearbox that we have. The V6 doesn't feel inspired at all. It just feels like it's doing its job and it doesn't really want to do it. That's how I can describe this V6. But again, it sounds pretty good, but it's definitely not fast. So how do we sum up this beautiful, I think it's a beautiful design, both inside, specifically inside, and also outside. I do like this car, but I would personally not spend $73,000 and not get the V8. The features, and as I said, the design is great, but the drivability is just not that fun to drive. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.